Nothing will stand in our way.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
I will finish what you started.
Who are you? I'm no one.
There are stories about what happened.
It's true. All of it.
The Force. It's calling to you. Just let it in.
It is a Star Wars show. Welcome. My name is Jon Justice. I'm the host of this show, and thank you so much for taking some time out and choosing this particular podcast where I spend a few minutes every single week talking about a galaxy far, far away and my love of it. As always, if you want to email me, TalkShowNerd@gmail.com, or if you happen to be enjoying this up on YouTube, you can always leave a comment there as well. So this week on the show, we'll talk a little bit about San Diego Comic-Con. No big reveals, and I wasn't necessarily anticipating there being any major reveals at San Diego Comic-Con. I was expecting a little bit more than what we got. However, the man who created Star Wars did show up for an event. We'll talk about that. George Lucas made an appearance. I believe what may have been one of the first times, or at least the first time in a long time, that George Lucas has made an appearance at the San Diego convention, specifically talking about his Lucas Museum of Narrative Art and what people can expect once the construction on that museum is complete. Also, we'll work off of the comingsoon.net article, but two upcoming Star Wars films have had their working titles revealed. Not a whole lot to glean from that, but I do want to share with you what those working titles are and further thoughts about these upcoming projects on the show this week. So let's not waste any more time, and let's get to first some of the biggest news of the week regarding George Lucas's appearance at San Diego Comic-Con.
Will you have a spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down?
It was interesting watching from a distance some of the coverage after the convention was over. I've been on YouTube quite a bit and was watching several of the panels, specifically the Project Hail Mary panel, which I've talked about on the show the past couple of weeks. My wife, Melinda, just finished reading the book, and she enjoyed it as well. Probably didn't love it as much as I did. I will say that it has me even more excited for the upcoming Ryan Gosling Star Wars film, which we'll talk about relating to the working titles. That's one of the films whose working title has been revealed. Also, the Tron Ares panel as well. This one, though, with George Lucas, and the point I wanted to make was it's interesting to see some of these individuals who have been famous within the pop culture, but we haven't heard from in a long time. So Kevin Smith did a lot of the hosting for some of these panels. Of course, the famed director and sometimes actor. He did a decent enough job. This Hall H panel, and Hall H being the major hall at San Diego Comic-Con when the event takes place. This was actually hosted by Queen Latifah, of all people, a name I haven't heard in a while, although I know she's been busy with other projects, just projects which aren't in my watching wheelhouse. George Lucas did make an appearance, discussed his love of art, film, and, as I mentioned, his plans for the Museum of Narrative Art, alongside Oscar-winning filmmaker Guillermo del Toro, who has his adaptation of Frankenstein coming out very soon, along with Lucasfilm's senior vice president and executive design director Doug Chiang, whose artwork is just absolutely phenomenal. Anybody who's ever looked at any of the artwork relating to the prequels, you've seen Doug Chiang's work. I mean, the design aesthetic of the prequels is owed to, in no small part, to this executive design director. Now, the museum's collection encompasses far more than George Lucas's personal cache of concept art, maquettes, and props from the original trilogy and prequel era of Star Wars. The panel revealed that several large pieces from those films will be on display when the museum opens in Los Angeles next year. So in addition to Luke Skywalker's X-34 Landspeeder from the original Star Wars A New Hope, a one-to-one replica of General Grievous's wheel bike, as seen in Revenge of the Sith, and a full-scale version of Anakin Skywalker's N-1 starfighter from Star Wars The Phantom Menace will all be on display. So, my understanding is the Luke Landspeeder is the original speeder from A New Hope, and I believe that the N-1 starfighter is also one of the original full-scale versions from The Phantom Menace. The General Grievous wheel bike wouldn't be, since most of that was done in CG or miniature, but these are certainly items that will get me to want to travel to Los Angeles, not just to see my family, but to see those items as well. The opportunity to see any Star Wars-related item that was actually used in the film is always a special moment for any Star Wars fan. And considering the significance of definitely the Landspeeder, but also, the N-1 starfighter, going back to the Phantom Menace. I mean, this is the beloved Star Wars trilogy, and anytime you have the chance to see anything full scale, I just find that an opportunity that cannot be missed. The pieces will be displayed as part of an eclectic collection that includes the first drawing of Flash Gordon going back to 1934, original art for Marvel's Iron Man's debut comic cover in 1968, illustrations from Peanuts creator Charles M. Schultz, and paintings and other works from Norman Rockwell, Jack Kirby, Frida Kahlo, just to name a few. It is interesting to me that much like the passing of our icons of the day, we've had several significant celebrity deaths. And while each of them has made their mark in different ways, some more than others, they all have a place within pop culture. We heard of the tragic passing in just a freak drowning accident of Malcolm Jamal Warner from, of course, The Cosby Show, a show that I loved as a kid. Hulk Hogan was never a wrestling fan, but obviously Hulk Hogan has made his mark in the wrestling community and beyond, just within pop culture, to become a major figure from the 80s and an icon. And, of course, from the political spectrum and my weekly radio show on Twin Cities News Talk here, his appearances during the latest campaign cycle out promoting President Donald Trump. And then, of course, you, on top of that, also had the passing of Ozzy Osbourne. Again, I enjoy some of Ozzy's earlier work, but I've never considered myself a fan of Black Sabbath or Ozzy Osbourne. But these individuals all carried significance relating to pop culture. Rough week in terms of those of us who grew up in the 80s. The point that I want to make, though, is that there's less opportunity now, the way that entertainment is segmented, for individuals to rise to that level of notoriety. Now it doesn't really take much to become famous. You don't have to do anything special. A viral moment online can go and make that happen for you. Listen, the controversy surrounding Sydney Sweeney and American Eagle jeans right now. This is an actress who was very well known, but the number of people on my radio show who were completely unaware of her was actually quite surprising. Not everybody watches TV and movies the way that I do, but now everybody knows who she is. And it's not through her work of being an actress, but because of a controversy, ridiculous one at that, surrounding American Eagle's jeans. So I say all of this going back to the items that will be on display at this museum. It's much along the same way, in my opinion, wherein because of CGI and special effects work, and because of the abundance of entertainment that's available to individuals, it's hard for films to really break out to become fabrics of our culture, to the point where individual items as part of the set are treasured pieces of nostalgia that fans like myself would flock to go and see. You'd be hard-pressed to find really any modern-day piece of film or filmography that is able to reach the level of an item like Luke Skywalker's Landspeeder for a particular generation. Right. The N1 Starfighter. So in the collection, as I don't think I mentioned this, maybe I did and I glossed over it, but it will also house speeder bikes from Return of the Jedi and concept art production for the first 6 films in the saga. I mean, also seeing film-used speeder bikes would just be amazing to see those firsthand. And those types of iconic images and pieces of filmmaking, again, it's just tough to go and reach a level where it's into the cultural zeitgeist to the point where people would flock to go and see those particular items. And it takes a lot more than a film earning a lot of money to reach that level. Listen, I love the Avatar films, but they carry no significant cultural weight whatsoever relating to pop culture. Like watching the footage from Comic-Con, I didn't see, and you don't ever see anybody who's dressing as characters from Avatar, even though those films make more money than all of the other films. So, unique collection, and of course, Lucas's museum is going to stretch far beyond that, as Lucas has been into so many other different facets of filmmaking and pop culture himself. He drawing inspiration from pop culture of his generation, which is indicative in what was showcased in this article of the first drawing from Flash Gordon, the original art for Iron Man, which of course does carry relevancy now, or relevance, I should say, relevance now, considering the popularity of Iron Man and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And also within my wheelhouse as well, illustrations from Charles M. Schultz. I mean, that's just fantastic. So, again, the museum will open in Los Angeles next year, and I, for one, am looking forward to going and visiting it at some point in the future.
Something inside me has always been there. But now it's awake. And I need help.
From ComingSoon.net, 2 Star Wars movies' working titles have been revealed. After the project was officially announced nearly 4 months ago, Sean Levy's upcoming Star Wars Starfighter movie has finally received a new update, along with, and surprisingly, Taika Waititi's long-in-development Star Wars project. Now, the Ryan Gosling-led movie that's slated to arrive in theaters on May 28th of 2027, that would be the Starfighter film, while Waititi's movie currently has no release date still to be attached. I was not all that confident that Taika Waititi's movie was going to be made. I'm not sure this changes things all that much, but let's get into some of the details here. So, what are the newly revealed Star Wars working titles? So, after 5 years since it was first revealed, Taika Waititi's Star Wars project does finally have a working title. According to a new report by Nexus Point News, the movie has reportedly been given the working title of Cosmic Doom and will be made under the production name of Ghost Truck 6. At the moment, further details about its plot and characters are still under wraps. Now, Waititi will be directing from a screenplay written by Oscar-nominated scribe Tony McNamara. Despite its long development process, president of Lucasfilm Kathleen Kennedy previously expressed her confidence in the Oscar-winning filmmaker's creative process. She said, "Taika is on Taika time. I've just continually said to him, look, when you feel that you're ready and you can really devote the time, we're going to do it. We will be waiting. I'm just hoping we get there. That will be a great Star Wars movie." I have to assume that the pitch is really good. I'm not going to belabor the point that I've made on other podcasts that Star Wars is in a really weird spot right now. And even on last week's episode, I guess I kind of forgot that we weren't that far removed from the end of Andor. and what a success and enjoyment the season 2 of Andor was. And so we were not far out from having new Star Wars content. But when you've been given so much Star Wars content over the course of the past few years, any sort of delay or any time the news cycle gets quiet, it just seems a little odd. Probably a good thing for Star Wars, as I've talked about. I think that scarcity can benefit the franchise. That being said, the fact that Taika Waititi's film, especially given his most recent track record with his movies, which have not been great, including Thor: Love and Thunder, Last Goal Wins was a disappointment in my mind, and a lot of the content that he's producing just hasn't been all that great. I can only assume that this must be a banger of a storyline and concept for Disney and Lucasfilm more specifically to still be considering making the project. Now, as for Levy's Star Wars Starfighter, the outlet reveals the studio is planning to start production this September, so just in a couple of months here, in London. It'll most likely last until December. Now, prior to its official title reveal, the project originally had the working title of Kyber Mist, with the production name of Blue Mist Productions. This film does star Ryan Gosling, Mia Goth. The movie is described as a standalone adventure that will take place 5 years after the events of 2019's Rise of Skywalker. According to the studio, it's an entirely new adventure featuring all new characters set in a period of time that has not been explored on screen yet. Mia Goth, I believe, has been cast as the villain of the film. Now, Ryan Gosling is already a high-profile actor in his own right. I am convinced that he's about to go into the stratosphere because of Project Hail Mary, which comes out of March next year. Now, I'm biased. I love the story. The trailer looks amazing. I'm incredibly excited for this film, and as I mentioned last week, I'm more excited for Project Hail Mary at the moment than I am Mandalorian and Grogu. I reserve the right to go and change my opinion once I begin to see some footage from The Mandalorian and Grogu. Unfortunately, The Mandalorian and Grogu does just feel like an extension of what would have been Season 4, and they've trimmed it down and turned it into a 2-hour or 2-hour-plus film. It could be great. I hope that it is. I love The Mandalorian. That being said, wanting new content, knowing the story, having read the book, Project Hail Mary, I think is going to be a massive success, which is only going to go and benefit Star Wars Starfighter coming out the year following. And what a grab it was to bring him on board. And I'm also hoping that this film is serving as a potential jump-off point for a new series of films, wherein it's a standalone one-off movie, but if it's successful enough and we gravitate towards these characters, then perhaps they can dovetail off of this and begin to start something fresh and new in terms of a series of films. I know that the focus, they've said, from Lucasfilm has been on these one-off projects. I've been very vocal that I think that's a mistake. I think Star Wars thrives off of saga storytelling, trilogy storytelling of what we got in the first 3 trilogies, despite the controversies of the third of those trilogies. But I'm also keeping an open mind, excited about this Starfighter project, and certainly excited at the cast so far. And I really, really hope that this is going to be one of the films to really bring Star Wars back into, as I sort of come full circle in the podcast, the cultural zeitgeist. I think there's a lot of enthusiasm that's been lost as of late surrounding Star Wars, and I hope that they course correct to bring about that sense of excitement and desire to know every little teeny tiny facet and analyze every single piece of a trailer. This is what I want, that conversation of what's going to happen next. It's been so lacking within the Star Wars commentary because of the content that they've been producing. Some of it has been great, but unfortunately it's been set in these timelines where, apart from the unknown of what happens to particular characters, we know the outcome of the overall story because it's placed in the middle of a timeline where we already have stories that are bookending what is taking place in these events. And while they're exciting and they are executed fantastically and it's incredibly entertaining, it doesn't leave open a lot of options in terms of speculation within the fandom and carrying on of continued conversation that Star Wars really thrives on. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I hope you'll drop me an email, talkshownerd@gmail.com. I don't put a lot of stock in these working titles. Typically, they don't really have much to do with the content of the movies themselves. Trixie was the working title when it came to The Rise of Skywalker, and it was only Trixie because in the middle of the spelling of that was 9 in Roman numerals, so they spun off of that. So I don't put a lot of, I don't speculate a lot on the working titles of films. It's just interesting to see that because typically it indicates that these projects are about to get underway, and that in and of itself is exciting. TalkShowNerd@gmail.com. Drop me a comment up on YouTube as well. I would love to be able to share that on next week's episode and also comment on whatever thoughts or questions that you also might have. Listen, and that wraps up the show for this week. As always, I want to take the opportunity and invite you to head on over to Amazon.com. You like science fiction, if you enjoy reading or listening to science fiction, I've written a science fiction space opera adventure series. It is called EMBARK. There are 7 books in all in the series, 2 trilogies that are linked by a standalone story that serves as book 4 in the middle of the series. The entire set of books is available in paperback, hardcover, audiobook, narrated and produced by me, ebook, and Kindle Unlimited. And as a matter of fact, right now, I'm actually working on promoting the books via a new book description, which is actually the old book description. I've been tinkering with a lot of different descriptions for my books for a long time, trying to figure out which ones, sell the books more, promote the book more, and I actually decided to go back to the beginning. I went and pulled the description off the back of the book, made one slight adjustment in adding in the year in which all of this takes place. So, if you're interested in book 1, here is the original description that I wrote when I first released the book. It's 2172, and flight culture has replaced car culture. 2 of Earth's largest corporations now supply the planet with the technology and fuel to make air and space flight available to everyone. Taftgardia spends his weekends at an abandoned flying field, racing through the skies with his 3 best friends and the girl he longs to be with, Keitha Morrow. After receiving a mysterious message from her deceased aerospace engineer father, Keitha and Taft make a shocking discovery. With Earth now suddenly facing a great disaster, a ruthless and power-hungry enemy emerges. Unwittingly, Taft, Keitha, and their friends are thrust into the middle of humanity's fight for survival and future among the stars. Head on over to Amazon.com and check out the series for yourself. I wrote these books for adults, but they are completely appropriate for those 11 and older. So treat yourself, a friend, or a family member with science fiction and pick up EMBARK Book 1 today. If you like your science fiction space opera to be epic, filled with romance, unique action sequences, and a lot of really cool technology, and you just want to get involved in a fun adventure series, EMBARK is perfect for you. Head on over to Amazon.com and search for Jon, that's Jon, Jon Justice, and EMBARK, and you'll find the entire series there in whatever format you prefer. Thank you so much for checking out this week's episode. I'll be back again next week. I hope to hear from you, and until I do, wherever you are, I hope you're happy, I hope you're healthy, I hope you're safe. God bless. I'll talk to you next week. Bye.
The Force will be with you, always.
My Nerd World.